Hey, everybody, back again. The Helpful Home Inspector back at you again with another weekly live show. Today, we've got two important people in the room. We got Mark Smith, which has been on the show many times. He's going to be a good co-host. And we have Bill Moeller from Bank 59. I always say bank high five. High five. High five. You go over to Bank 59, he'll give you a high five, okay? Let's get into the lending process. The first step of the lending process, which we talk about almost every time, is the pre-approval letter. So the pre-approval letter, essential, okay? This is something you do probably on a daily basis, I would imagine. Okay, what is a pre-approval letter for those of you that have never done it before?
So to anyone that's actually looking to get started, you know, there's these apprehensions. Am I going to be approved? Will I be approved for the amount I desire? Yeah. Oftentimes we see people put the carriage before the horse and they see the really fancy, shiny car in the showroom when in reality they should have been looking for one out on the used car lot. Yeah. And that metaphor really applies to the idea that you shouldn't start window shopping or set up a search with Mark until we had a chance to help you gather established credit, established assets, established income. For example, you can be fresh out of college, Matt, and you don't have to have a 2-year work history.
Really? With
your time in school is
nor
treated
a regular employment history.
Yeah, you have to have, if you have a college degree and you can show you have a transcript, you don't need to actually have a 2-year work history. They will treat that as work history.
So how do they count that for income then, though?
So basically, that person would be going into a profession where they're going to get salaried, or they're going to get a full-time 40-hour guaranteed work week with consistent income stream. Yeah. Where you'd run into trouble would be if that person was going to go and have a straight commission job.
Or be self-employed or something
like that. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So pre-approval, just zooming out for a second, just to come back to your original question, would be to basically say, we have a list of criteria that we have to check that we've been elaborating on a little bit a minute ago, and we want to meet that criteria on the pre-approval, and now lenders are having to go a step further. We're actually getting the customers through underwriting right out of the chute because
in the pre-approval process?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We're collecting all the documents up front. We're actually going straight at it as if it's a real deal because we want that buyer to stand out in the space that they're competing with other buyers for the same property. Sure. And so if you have a pre-approval letter from the Rocket or somewhere else where it's honestly not really vetted as much as it could be. Yeah. Everyone's going to be looking at these pre-approvals and scrutinizing them in the case where they have a lot of decisions to make for who they should select as that buyer that wins the bid on that house.
Yeah, the Rocket is basically just a computer vetting the person where you don't have any person's eyes generally.
I understand they can churn those up pretty fast.
Yeah. As far as the pre-approval letter, very important before you go looking at houses.
Yeah.
Right?
So one of the things for us is we always try to educate all of our buyers that come in. So we actually sit down with them. We have a meeting, kind of discuss what their needs and what their wants are. But the first step in our process is to get pre-approval, and we have our list of people that we choose. Bill is on our list of lenders. I can tell you that the biggest thing as being a listing agent on my side, if I'm working with a seller, let's say I get 5 offers, and let's say 3 of them are exactly the same and the highest offer, but 2 of them are from a national lender, and 1 of them is from a local lender that is right down the block or is someone I can walk right into that office.
They can make decisions.
That makes a huge difference. And when we talk to the seller about that, I can tell you from personal experience of working with Bill. Bill's worked tirelessly. I know during weekends, like a lot of these national banks, they'll work from 9 to 5. Some might work during the weekends, but we always tell our buyers that if they are really, really connected with their lender, we ask them if you're really connected with them, you're going to need their cell phone number, because when we make those decisions and we have to get stuff that's done quickly, we're making our offers on the weekends, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Well, a lot of those lenders that are national are not necessarily working those hours. I know for sure that Bill is, because I actually had Bill talking with one of our buyers for probably 2.5, 3 hours on a weekend, and it was actually his birthday. So Bill definitely goes.
Talk about commitment.
Yeah, Bill goes out of his way to really help us out, and the idea of having a local lender is a big deal on the seller side. On the buyer side, for us, we need to know what those people can spend, because of the fact that we have to guard against them shopping too high, because let's say that theoretically someone's approved for $300,000. Well, in this market right now, you can't shop at the 300,000 mark because you have nothing to fight with, because a lot of these offers now are going above asking.
Yeah.
So what we say is, hey, let's dial that back down a little bit, maybe shop in the 260 area, 270, and then let's go from there, because you might be able to find exactly the same property, but not at be that top rate.
Yeah, that pre-approval letter is going to lay out what you can afford, generally speaking. And if you push the limits of that, you're pushing the limits of your pocketbook at the same time.
Right.
So you want to keep that within reason.
There's one other really big distinction I would make, and it's that all lenders right now have to literally go through a process where they're pre-approving a home seller that's going into upsizing or downsizing, basically at a two-facet process. Because basically, Matt, I'd have to say to you, if you and Patty didn't fall in a spot where you could get your house sold ahead of time, I have to qualify you maybe at a price point maybe that doesn't give you your full affordability potential.
Yeah.
Whereas if you get your house sold, obviously you can afford more. So to some lenders, there's criteria where they have creative ways to do it.
There's two sides of that then.
Yeah, and people have to get through that process without literally feeling like you've just got done running a marathon and you can't run another step, because if a lender doesn't frame that the right way, the way they weave in the two different approaches, someone could get discouraged.
Yeah. And if all you're doing is checking off boxes on a computer screen, you're not going to... You're going to feel kind of left on the wayside.
Yeah, so I think we both kind of work really well as a team to help people navigate through those feelings. And even when it was on my birthday and I'm talking to these people, vividly remember that conversation. They had that deal. They had that situation where they had to buy before they sell.
Yeah.
And you got to basically talk to people about pros and cons of temporarily borrowing against your retirement, hoping you have some money in reserve so that you could maybe make the minimal down payment and then also too wonder, what happens if I have two house payments? How long will that happen? Be like that,
and all the it gets
or
hairy.
bridge loans too.
Yeah, it gets hairy.
Yeah, so those are all things.
Yeah. Now, with a pre-approval letter, is it a requirement if somebody's paying cash? Like if I sold my house, I made $300,000 on it, and the house I'm buying is $250,000, and I'm going to pay cash.
Yeah, so if you're paying cash, instead of having a pre-approval letter, you'd have to have a proof of funds. So you'd actually have to go to your lender and get an actual document that's from the bank, not something that's made off of somebody's computer, but actually from the bank that's signed, that actually has a live person that's actually signed it that you can get a hold of, that actually shows that you have that money in your accounts and that it's liquid.
So a printout of my checking account won't work.
Not necessarily. I mean,
I would assume it's not.
Yeah, I think the thing is that we have to vet not only the document itself, but also the person standing behind that document to have a conversation with them. I know from our side, when we're listing a home, when we get offers in, we're calling every single one of those lenders and talking to them about the buyers that they have on their end that they're working.
You're underwriting basically.
We have to do what we have to do to protect our people.
Yeah, I mean the pre-approval letter, you're going to find that people that are if you're going to offer on a home, it's going to be a requirement. Nobody's going to list their house with a real estate agent that's going to accept any offers without some sort of a pre-approval letter or verification of funds.
You have to have that to have it be bona fide.
And most real estate agents, a lot of real estate agents won't even take you looking at houses without a pre-approval letter, because last thing, you go online and you go on Keller Williams, and you can look for houses till you're blue in the face or whatever, and find all kinds of cool houses that you would love to be in. And this real estate agent's going to chase around to 20 houses that you may never be able to afford because you don't know. And that's where this pre-approval letter is very, very important. So that's step one of the home buying process is getting that pre-approval letter.
They have to be ready, willing, and able.
Yep. Now, as far as the pre-approval letter, you're going to need some information. What kind of things do you need from them in order to establish a pre-approval letter from Bank 59?
We need 2 years of employment history, 2 years of residence history. We're looking for a summary of your liquid and non-liquid assets. So that would be checking, savings, 401k, IRA. If you got into Robinhood in 2020, we'll ask you for that. Sure. If you have crypto, that's also another really interesting thing.
You guys use that?
There are some specific set guidelines. In the interest of time, we won't go into too much depth on it right now. But basically, the distinction I would tell anyone that's listening to this podcast, this video, is the distinction of what's called seasoned funds. Seasoned funds is if the money's been in your bank account for at least 60 days. Mm-hmm. The mortgage lender, the underwriter, isn't going to ask you where the money came from. Yeah. The second that money appeared in your bank account and it's over 25% of your gross monthly income, and it landed in your bank account, okay, I'm going to ask you to paper trail it in order for me to show that I can use it. So assets, I'm going to ask you for the 2-year income. I'm going to ask you for 2 years of residence history. That's a high level.
But no, so you're not really using crypto. Like if somebody says, I have $80,000 in crypto, you're like, Yeah.
The rumor has it on the West Coast there is a mortgage lender that's not affiliated to Fannie or Freddie that will actually securitize crypto to make mortgages. Maybe years down the line that'll become more commonplace, but it's not really commonplace in the Midwest.
Red flag.
Yeah,
Not something I'd want to work with.
And you have to actually liquidate certain assets in order for you to.
And that makes sense. Like if you want the crypto account, you got to liquidate it, put it in your checking account.
Yeah, exactly. And then we're going to paper trail the liquidation of it too.
Sure. Yeah, to prove that it's legit funds.
Yeah. There are occasions where you can, get creative with how you're verifying funds and you can like gifts, certain things. But high level, that's what's going on.
Sure. Now, to get a pre-approval letter, how much does it cost a buyer?
Boy, if it costs anything, that buyer should call us.
That's what I would say. I don't think I've ever paid for a pre-approval letter in all the years. All the homes.
Lender wants to earn your business. They're gonna take you through that process. Be a good steward of helping you get educated and make sure you get a pre-approval in a timely manner.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of when you're choosing the bank to go with, are you going to be able to communicate with the person? Are they available to you? Are they nice to you? Do they seem like they want your business? You know what I mean? And somebody that's going out there wanting to charge you $150 for a pre-approval letter is not somebody that wants your business.
Well, credit reports tripled in cost this year.
I bet.
At the beginning of the year. So some lenders are it's starting to factor into their cost of doing business for how much a credit report costs now.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. I have feelings about credit reports and all that kind of stuff. How it would, they're managed by outside companies and they can make money off of my credit score. And I mean, it's just kind of a crazy concept, but it's reality.
They're going to get more regulated here coming up, and there's going to be some changes to the FICO scoring model by 2025. Right now there's 3 major credit bureaus: TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian.
Yep.
There is talk that they're going to eventually have some reform around that area. I won't go into more depth than that at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they're an outside business, so they have to be paid for their work and stuff. But we gotta, also keep it real. These are people's scores and stuff that you're making money off of. So, with that, as far as the pre-approval letter goes, when you get a pre-approval letter from a bank, is it a commitment to the bank at some kind or at some level?
It's really not a commitment in that there are still some facets to the transaction that could impact whether or not you go to a successful closing. You could have a title issue.
Okay.
You could have an appraisal issue.
Well, and you talked about starting underwriting as part of the process too, so that is even more in depth than just what used to be just a surface.
Yeah, and there are some lenders that are getting really creative in the way that they guarantee that you're going to go to a successful closing, or they will basically put their some dollars behind it.
Sure.
But basically, ultimately, from the standpoint of the vetting process, you get as far as you can ahead of knowing what's on title, ahead of knowing could there be something going on with the collateral, and you get that vetted out as best as you can.
Yeah, it's not an absolute commitment, but you got to look at this. This person is doing work for you at no cost to you, generally speaking. And I mean, while you don't actually owe them the farm, you do owe them a little bit of loyalty as long as they've gone out there and done the work for you. Just like a real estate agent goes out and shows you 40 houses. Okay, and they get paid nothing for showing you 40 houses. And then, I found my neighbor down the street that wants me to buy her house. And it's like, I just spent how many weekends with you? I mean, Mark, you got to know that's a thing. Here's the thing.
It happens. We do everything in good faith, right? The idea is that if you can help people and educate them and help them through, it's all going to come back as a point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. The next thing we got to talk a little bit about is when, as a matter of the pre-approval letter, it comes in a digital form, or is it something you got to pick up the bank and get signed, or?
No, at this point, we're doing pre-approvals on the fly to the point where, let's say, Matt, you come to me and I'm able to run a credit report literally on the fly. I could be doing a pre-approval in the
on
car.
Your birthday.
I have my laptop with me. I can do the pre-approval within minutes because I have the credit report. Obviously, when I say minutes, I'm able to check all the boxes and solidify all the details.
Sure.
So basically, an average pre-approval without exaggerating takes about an hour.
Yeah. And how long is it good for generally?
120 days.
120 days. So and you have 3 months or 4 months to go out and find
your
house.
And when we had a little bit more of the volatility, that 120 days, even though that's what the letter's for on the bank side, for us as a listing agent, we'd probably look for something that's a little shorter. So we might even ask for something that's a little bit more current, because the volatility, when it's going up a half to a full percent, or then you're worried more about that, because if they're already at the top end and that interest rate went up another percent, we have to protect our sellers and say, hey, do you mind getting an updated pre-approval letter?
Yeah,
just to make sure, because we want to make sure that both sides know what's going on.
Yep. Well, and sometimes it takes a year to find your house in this current market where there's not as many houses available. It might take a long time. In which case, they just call you back up and say, "Hey, I need to update my pre-approval letter or whatever. I'm getting close to 120 days." And I'm assuming it's a little bit easier, right?
Yeah, it is, because you already have everything in your system.
Yeah.
The sales cycle does cause us to fall into a place, though, sometimes where, like, we have a customer that will be, it would be 30 to 60 days, they'd be under contract. Sure. Now it could be anywhere between 6 to 12 months, depending on the client and their expectations. Yeah. And it could be Saturday night at 6 o'clock, and I'm saying to the person, I got to repull your credit right now, Mr. Customer. And all of a sudden, they maxed out their credit cards. And if I didn't repull their credit, I would be doing Mark's seller a disservice.
Yeah, because when you get to closing, you're gonna have a problem, because
you're not gonna get to closing.
They verify they verify your funds and everything right up to the last day before closing. And if you screwed up and went out and bought a $80,000 car, that's gonna screw things up.
We always tell people they're gonna buy a vehicle between accepted offer and closing. You might want to make it a van, because you're gonna be living in it.
Maybe down by the river.
Right.
Yeah. Now, getting a pre-approval letter, running credit scores mildly affects your credit score ish.
There's a common misconception that you can't go to multiple lenders. And to be impartial for the audience and just to, not have a bias, I will say you are allowed to shop for a mortgage. It says so right on the CFPB website. You can shop for a mortgage for 30 days and actually have multiple credit checks done by lenders, and it's only treated as one inquiry.
Oh, okay.
And as far as I can see, I see people that go and get multiple credit card checks to save money get a discount on your stuff at Macy's or whatever.
Kohl's or wherever, yeah.
Yep. Those are counted one for one. So you shouldn't see a drastic difference. If you do, it's going to be less than 10 points, and after 1 month, it'll rebound.
Sure.
The other thing too, we always say, well, what are you waiting? What are you holding onto that credit for? Because if you're worried about your credit getting nicked, well, what are you saving that credit score for? It's to buy a house, your biggest investment, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, get in on it.
Right.
All right. So that is the pre-approval letter. Very important first step of going out and looking for a home, going out and looking and getting that mortgage process started. The pre-approval letter is essential. All right. But lots of great stuff here today, you guys. If you have interest in getting a mortgage or looking at a home, talk to these two guys. Mark Smith is your real estate agent. Give him a call. Smith Team Wisconsin. They're on our website, but you can also look them up on Keller Williams. And then also Bill Moeller from Bank 59. If you're looking for a mortgage, talk to this guy. He's local. He's here to help you out and advise you. And even if you don't decide to go with him or whatever, he'd be loving to talk to you and give you some of his information that he's got in that big brain of his. Any last comments, guys?
Go with Team Smith. Make your dreams a realty.
Ooh, he's got a tagline.
Better believe it.
Bank 59, making lives better.
Nice. Yes. All right. That's the show for today, you guys. Thanks again for tuning in. This is the Helpful Home Inspector, Matt Yates, coming at you live from Hartford. We'll see you next week. Have a good one. Remember, you guys, the better you take care of your house, the better it's going to take care of you.